Celebrating 60 years in music. A mistletoe and a glass of wine. Oh, got a song coming on. Welcome, Sir Cliff Richard and Beverley Knight. Lovely to have you both here. Now, so we've got a night and a night. So, and two pop stars, if I can use that word loosely, vying for a Christmas #1. Beverley, you've got the song out.
I do indeed. It's called A Christmas Wish, the theme to The Loss Adjuster. So it's attached to a movie.
Yeah.
Very excited about that. Very excited.
Well, good luck. And Cliff, yours?
Well, mine's going to be a song that's off the album, and it's one of my favourite songs on it. It's called P.S. Please. It's a kind of sad song, but it has pathos because it's about a guy who never met his daughter, but he leaves messages for her about happy birthday, happy new year, and money to buy her first car. And it's just got a lovely feel about it. I love the song very, very much.
Poignant.
It's not a
Christmas
theme,
yeah.
but it's a heartfelt thing.
Yes, yeah. And we need a bit of heart this year. Now,
Yes.
Are you both at home in the country? I mean, I'm looking particularly at your country boots.
Oh,
here,
I'm
Beverley.
so prepared for the country with these crazy heels. Of course.
Come on, they're going to have to get you out with a truck with heels like that.
I know. I mean, look at me. You know, I scream country. No, I do like being in the countryside. I do. As I've gotten older, as I've matured, I've really begun to appreciate what is around me and getting out of the city and just getting into calm and green spaces. It's lovely.
Green space is important to you, Cliff?
Countries?
Yeah. Oh, well, green spaces in general. I mean, now, because you
Well, it depends on which country I'm in.
Yeah, where are you now? You Barbados and Portugal?
Yeah, I mean, Portugal is one of those places, because it's surrounded by vines, there's something nice about sitting there and drinking your own wine and watching it grow. And it's a very nice thing. But yeah, I've always been fond of country because, I mean, even driving here to your place, we saw some fantastic autumnal scenes. It was absolutely beautiful. So I'm happy in the country. And I haven't got heels.
Yeah. Now, Christmas for you both. Beverley, what's
Yes.
Christmas mean for you? What's going to happen?
Well, this Christmas will be probably very different.
Yeah.
For a start, I'll be hopefully working in Panto, but usually Christmas would involve a trip up to my family in Wolverhampton, involve a lot of music, a lot of singing, and a hell of a lot of fun. We are a big family, and music is the epicentre of all of it. So, I don't know, this year will be
We
different.
shall see.
We shall see.
Cliff, do you park the music at Christmas? Do you like to just completely switch off and not have anything to do with music? Or...
No, I'm usually in Barbados at Christmas time, and you know, the very first year after I built the house, I bought a tree, and I had to shower 3 times just decorating it. It was so strange to be in this kind of hot climate. So I've got used to that now, and of course I know a few people now on the island, and so therefore Christmas can be very nice there too.
Yeah.
And I miss my family, of course, but family split up. My sister's family split up. Her children have their own in-laws to go to, and so we adults, I think, it's meant for us as well, should just make the best of it whenever we can.
I think that's what happens, isn't it? When your children marry, they have other families as well, and you've got to get used to sharing them a bit. And it's not always easy, but we all do our best and be democratic about it. Lovely to have you both with us. I'll be chatting and catching up with you both a little bit later on. In the meantime, do help yourself to a mince pie.
Ooh, thank you.
Yeah. Now, we're very generous here. And he's the original British teen idol, adored by millions the world over. Sir Cliff Richard on his incredible life and career and becoming the first pop star to be knighted by the Queen. And from one night to... There may not be a lot of kissing this particular Christmas, but the mistletoe is still a festive favourite, and at least we can elbow bump underneath it. Roll on next year. He remains one of the world's best-selling musicians, and just this weekend he set a new all-time official chart record by becoming the first artist ever to score a top 5 album in 8 consecutive decades. Here is why. Here he is, being interviewed by someone who bought Bachelor Boy when it first came out.
Oh, really?
With The Next Time on the Other Side. I remember it vividly. I was first in our street. It was a great boast.
That was one of the decades, of course.
It was one of the... Has it come as a surprise to you, finally?
Yes, I mean, because it's one of those things you can't really aim at, can you? I didn't think that I would be 50 in years living, let alone having a 62-year career. And so suddenly, earlier in the week, I was told, and I haven't stopped smiling since, because it seems impossible. I don't understand it, but it's still happening.
Well, we all think, actually, that either you lie about your age or your years are much shorter than ours or something, because I mean, you're a great advert for being 80, Cliff. I mean, but you've always been keen on keeping fit, haven't you? I mean, you've been looked after yourself.
I have, and it really started, I mean, I've written in my book, but I've talked about this a lot. When I was watching Coronation Street one night, way back in 60-something, and Minnie Colwell, one of the characters, when they were in that snug.
I remember Martha Longhurst and Ena Sharp.
Yes,
yeah.
And they were talking about movies, and of course I'd had the young ones out, and Minnie Colwell said, "Oh," she said, "I love that chubby Cliff Richard," and I thought, chubby, and I looked in the mirror, and I was chubby, just because a year before I'd gone to the States, and we toured. The Shadows and I toured with a big group of people, and we'd stop 2 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, steak, chips. Half and half, cream, and I had put on weight. So I started dieting then and being careful. But you know, you need to, there's no secret to it. You just need to be careful with what you eat and try and get some exercise now and then. I always think you've got to keep moving. If you can't run, walk. If you can't walk, crawl.
You talk about it in the book. The book's called The Dreamer, an autobiography. It's right from the start, right the way up to date. I saw my life flashing before me as I read this book. And Sue Barker, then, that got you into tennis?
Well, she's the one that introduced me to it, and then we'd have some hits on the court in one of David Lloyd's clubs, and then I'd go shower later, and these guys would say, "Did you beat her?" I went, "Please, are you serious?" The only time I hit the ball was when I served it. Otherwise, I couldn't get any ball that she served to me, and every time she hit the ball, I could never get there fast enough. It was just one of those things. And so I then got interested, and she was going on tour somewhere. She said, "I've got a friend that would be happy to play with you." And we played, and I got really into playing, but I can't ever really be any good at it, not great. But I love watching it, and it's a fantastic thing to watch, because you really have like two gladiators with their weapons and fireballs going by. It's a fantastic piece of entertainment. I like it. I mean, we all find the sport we like, and tennis just happens to be the one I like best.
You seem to me to have been very clever in life, in that you have found what you're good at, which also happens to be the thing that you love, and you've kept at it. You're a complete, when I say workaholic, I don't mean that unkindly, but you're dedicated to music. You have been since the early days when the Drifters became the Shadows, and Club 21, and that discovery in that club that you could actually do it. And the book tells the story of that. Will you read us a little bit, Cliff?
Yeah, I saw this here and I marked it, but I found a little piece. It's not too long.
Oh, that's good. You don't like to detain them too long, you know?
Well, I was going on about things, and I said here that journalists are always eager for a story, and they started talking about me as Britain's answer to Elvis. They had forgotten one thing. Elvis was not a question. In any case, in America, the way that Elvis waggled his hips was seen as very sexual. Just look at how they only showed him from the waist up on US television. But I wasn't like that. I knew I loved wiggling my hips on stage and making the girls scream, but I never did anything suggestive. That just wasn't me. And I'm not sure that it was him either. I was far happier soon after, reading my favorite headline ever. We were releasing our second single, High Class Baby, and the Melody Maker, which was the music paper of that time, had the headline, Elvis and Cliff battled it out in the charts. Is that enough?
What a lot of people might be surprised about is that you never met. The two of you never got together, which seems, because you were contemporaries in terms of the music scene. In our class, there were girls who loved you and the girls who loved Elvis, and it was the same time. Was there ever a chance that you were going to, and it just didn't happen?
The first time I tried was I'd gone to Italy with some friends, my first holiday ever. And there were four of us, my friend and his girlfriend and the drummer of the Drifters, Shadows then, and myself. And coming back from Italy, we thought, well, let's just go to Germany. Bad Nauheim is where Elvis, we heard, was staying. We found his house. It wasn't difficult. It was covered in graffiti, love you, Elvis, and stuff. So I went up to the front door, bang, bang, bang. And this great American guy said, yeah, what can I do for you? And I said, is Elvis in? And he said, no, he's not here. I'll tell him you called. I went, okay, thank you. That's the first time I tried. The second time I nearly got to meet him because I was doing an interview with a journalist when Devil Woman was released in America. And he said to me, because I told him how I started my career because of Elvis. He's the inspiration. He said, well, I know Elvis. Would you like to meet him? I went, yeah, I do. And so we did the interview. And then at the end, he said, well, what about it? When should we do this? I said, look, let's wait a bit. Because, Elvis had put on a lot of weight. And, my dream was I wanted to have a photograph of me and Elvis on my fridge. And I'm thinking, I'll just wait a bit. Because he used to do films, and whenever he did films, he dieted, looked just like the old Elvis again. He died. That was the thing. And I always say, if I meet fans and we talk at all, I always say, if you want to meet someone, you really want to meet them, don't bother about their weight, just go and meet them.
See him. Well, we're back with more from Sir Cliff a little bit later on, right after this. Welcome back to Love Your Weekend and to Sir Cliff Richard, who is celebrating a top 5 album over 8 decades. Nobody's done it before. But I have to say, most of the ladies in the land are very upset, Cliff, because you've now said you're not doing another topless calendar.
Well, I never did do a topless calendar.
Well, they were sort of swimming trunks.
I'd been working out in the gym, and the guy said to me, what about, do you want to take the shirt off? I said, only if I can come out of the pool. That's why I took my shirt off. So I came out of the pool and took this picture. And then I think it was Chris Evans that said, that's not Cliff's head. They've put his head on someone else's body. But I think I'd probably like to have another go at one last calendar before, I get too much older. But I've told him I'm not stripping off. I can wear a vest.
String. Yeah. Yeah. Proudest moments when you look back over that career, things that have given you the greatest thrill?
I guess the biggest thrill, and it's not to do with the art, was when I was offered the knighthood. Because that, like the 88 decades thing, you can't expect that. You don't even aim at it. The knighthood was never on my radar screen at all, because actors got it, big businessmen got it, politicians got that. But when it came, I was thrilled. And the one thing that still disappoints me is that my dad wasn't alive then. He died really quite young, very early in my career. And that sort of, to me, was some kind of pinnacle. I didn't realize until I got that it takes a lot of people asking on your behalf that you should be honored in some way. And so having already got the OBE, I thought, that's it, I'm done. And then this came along, and it was just absolutely a wonderful shock.
Do you remember what the Queen said?
Yes, I can remember what she said. I can't remember what I said, because I mumbled. She taps you on the shoulder with the sword, and then you stand up, and you lean forward, and she puts the emblem of knighthood around you. It's on a lovely ribbon. And then they said to me, you say nothing unless she speaks to you. And she said, oh, this has been a long time coming. And I said, well, and I babbled. Honestly, I was so nervous. It was so emotional, I could hardly speak.
The nation, really, over all the years, has always been fascinated and curious about Cliff's private life, Cliff's relationships. You seem a very contained man. I mean, there are people, and still are people, presumably, who are close to you. I mean, you're not lonely, are you?
No, I'm not lonely. I could never, ever live on my own. I never have done. And also, people talk about relationships, and sometimes, I felt a couple of times I may have been near to a marriage, but never got that close.
But you were near?
Yeah, I asked the question of my manager, and the minute he told me how many percentages I'd lose of my fans, I thought, well, I'm not for this.
Oh, Cliff, that's dreadful.
I know it is. But it can't help it. We're all different. And we're talking about this eight-decade thing. How could I have done that had I not been focused on what I wanted to do? And it didn't make me a nasty person. I just let go of certain relationships. And so, but they're all friends of mine still. I mean, Sue Barker's a good friend of mine, and we dated a few times. So it's not a bad thing.
You're very frank, you're very candid in the book about the whole episode with the South Yorkshire Police and the accusations which were proved to be unfounded, which And I think a whole raft of us in the country were feeling desperately for you. You know, this old thing about, you know, the so-called victims are not named. You, though your name's held out there, you have to go through all that. You talk about it in the book. And you do say that it has affected you. I mean, you still you'll get through it, but not over it. Is that right?
I'm past it.
Yeah.
I'm past it now. But I don't see how you can ever get over something like that. I lived it for nearly 4 years, from the time that the accusation became public to the day that I won my case against the BBC. It wasn't just a mental thing. It's a physical breakdown as well that you go through when you have a false accusation. You feel so helpless. I mean, I described a friend of mine, we had friends there at the Quinto, my Portuguese house, and I collapsed on the floor. I mean, I've never fainted in my life, but my legs gave way and I was on the floor weeping. And fortunately, my friend John, is a priest, or he was a priest, they seemed to know the right questions to ask. He just got on his knees and he said, "Did you do this?" I went, "No." He said, "Did you ever do anything like this?" I said, "Absolutely not." He said, "Well, let's get up then, because I believe you. You know you didn't do it. He knows you didn't do it. And God knows you didn't do it." And it was a big help to me. But I still had to go through 4 years of what was really the most emotional, traumatic time. And I wouldn't actually I wouldn't do that to an enemy.
You were talking about, you know, management saying, you know, if you say you're going to get married, you'll lose all your fans. It was quite a big thing coming out as a Christian, because that can often be a turn-off for people. You know, you've always been quite upfront about your belief in God, the fact that you are a Christian. You use the word quite a lot. But it never crossed your mind not to admit to that in case it put people off. There's a degree of bravery there.
That's what I felt I grew up, because at that stage I'd spoken to some Christian friends and said, "What do you think? I'd been invited to speak on the Billy Graham platform," and I said, "That means I'm going to have to publicly say it. What do you think?" They said, "Well, you might lose some fans, but, you know, Christianity is never sort of a popular thing amongst the public." But because I did it, I thought, I knew that something was greater than what I was trying to do, bigger than me, better than me, and better for me. And so I felt I matured, suddenly started to mature as a man. So I never regretted it. Actually, speaking the words Jesus was a bit of a sort of for me, not anymore. And it was due to that particular evening with Billy Graham.
Any ambitions left? Anything you want to do that's just got away?
I'd like to do the whole darn thing again and try and get it right.
You got it right with us today, Cliff. As ever, a delight to talk to you. Bless you for coming. Good luck with the book, The Dreamer, and good luck with the tour next year. But 81-year tour now rather than 80, won't it?
No, it can still be called the Great 80 Tour, because I will still be Great 80 when I start it. Right. The trouble is, when I end, I'll be 81.
Right. Well, thanks very much indeed. From a man who's given a lot of joy to our own Ode to Joy, feast your eyes on this.